Bob Gotti is from the mob, actually. You
Yeah.
know, Bob Gotti is from the mob. Bob Gotti and Reggie Wright was tight. When Reggie took over Death Row as interim CO, him and Bob was, you know, they was thick as thieves. Bob was his left hand, right hand man at the time, you know. But me and Bob Gotti got a personal relationship, or we had a personal relationship back in the day that, hey, we was tight. You know what I mean? So Bob was a homie, you know, back then, and like I said, we was tight. The next response to that was, you asked me so many questions. Can you
I'll go
repeat?
back. Yeah, I'll go back. Don't worry about it. Well, how come you didn't put out the paperwork immediately?
Oh,
Why'd
no,
you
no, the
wait?
paperwork was put out immediately. It was put out immediately. But like I say, the surveillance photos wasn't with them at the time because the paperwork that I put out didn't have the surveillance photos with them. So when I
Right.
sent it to the hood and the hood addressed it, you know, he was able to say that that wasn't him. You know what I mean?
hmm Do you know if Mob James goes back to Compton and can he move freely?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna tell you about Compton right now. You have to understand that the most of us that grew up in Compton back in the day, we don't live there no more. You know what I mean? You know, and the younger generation might not even know that much of Mob James. So when he come through their neighborhood, he not a factor to them. They not looking for him, or they don't care who he is. He an old man, you know, to the youngsters. You know what I mean? So then let me clear something up.
hmm
I can go to almost any hood in LA on a certain day, be there for an hour or two, and don't run into not one person from that neighborhood. I could be on that street. Somebody just might not come down that street. You know what I mean? So we all slide through Compton and hang out. You know what I mean? And you cannot run into somebody else just based on, if I go to Compton on Thursday and he go to Compton on Friday, we'll never see each other. I mean, you know what I mean? Because we don't live there. We go and hang out there, you know, drink and chill and talk shit with the homies, and then we leave. We go back to work, and you know, and stuff like that. So it's super easy for anybody to go to a neighborhood and not run into, you know, an enemy or a friend, or you know, stuff like that. You know what I mean? So that's easy to do, AG, to be honest with you. He could be in Compton, you know what I mean? But I could too. He got his neighborhood, I got mine though. You know what I mean? When I go to Compton, I don't go to the mob. You know what I mean? You know, I go to hang out with my homies and shit like that. So it's easy for somebody to miss somebody. You know, it's easy.
hmm Do you think a person like James could go back to Compton knowing that he has paperwork on him?
Well, in today's society, yeah, because
Mm,
you got to realize that everybody don't want to put their life on the line for something that don't have nothing to do with them. That's
right.
just the reality of life. You know, people got their own problems, their own ordeals, their own kids to raise, their own families to feed. You know, and people ideology today is he didn't snitch on me. So you know what I mean?
Right. If you saw Mob James today, would you say anything to him?
I mean, I can't say that. I don't want to answer that because that's like a, you know, it's almost like you threatening somebody if you answer it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
You know, and everything in life, you know, I was even I'm not even talking about the Mob James situation, but everything in life, um, um, everything in life depends on circumstances. You know what I mean? So just let me give you an example. My daughter played club volleyball on a high level. You know what I mean? We trying to get her a scholarship. You know, we had a volleyball tournament, and I run into Mob James. Do I disrespect my whole daughter's volleyball tournament and everything she got going in order to try to get in college and to be better than her dad? Like I'm teaching her to just smash this dude, because at this time I'm not going. It ain't gonna be no shooting, and you know what I mean. You going to jail for the rest of your life. So to beat this dude up per se at my daughter's volleyball tournament, I mean, that don't make sense, AG, to, you know, get my daughter kicked off the volleyball team, get her scholarship ripped, get, you know, so you have to take circumstances into consideration. You know what I mean? So, and it's the same way I'm sure everybody feel about a lot of shit in life. You know what I mean? So I can't sit here and say, if I ran into him at my daughter volleyball game because he was there at his niece volleyball game, you know what I mean? Yeah, I might pull a push up on him and have a light conversation with him. You know what I mean? But it wouldn't be no physical altercations just based on, you know, we both gonna lose. You know what I mean? You know, we really both gonna lose. Ain't nobody gonna win from this. Nobody's gonna benefit, from the, not our kids, not our none of that. You know what I mean? So I'm at a point in my life where, I'll be, I'm too old to fuck mine off, for a motherfucker that's I mean, to be honest with you, I'm too old to fuck mine off for a motherfucker that didn't keep it solid. Just to be 100. You didn't keep it solid, homie. You don't even earn my respect for me to fuck mines off, in certain situations, because you didn't keep yours solid. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Let me ask you a couple more questions, and then we'll be over with. I'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me, said, ask him if Mob James paged him before he went to Drew House. How come the paperwork says James paged about drugs?
The page came from, maybe they didn't read the paperwork, or maybe they skimmed through it and just changed it up. The page came a week or two, a month later. You know what I mean? The page was actually later on to say that the drugs wasn't as good as he wanted them to be, but coming to find out, that was just basically locking me into the conspiracy. You know what I mean? So when he paged me and I called back and it was him, yeah, man, them drugs I got from you, because you didn't actually get them from me per se. You didn't get the crack from me. So you have to lock me into that conspiracy, and that's what the phone call did. It was a monitored phone call, the FBI listening. So when I stated that, man, hey, I'm always getting different kind of stuff, blah, 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 really trying to just get you off the phone, because we did, the transaction was done, it's nothing for, just talking. And, but that actually, locks you all the way into the conspiracy, that you knew what was going on, and was part of that conspiracy. That's all that was. But that was after the transaction. It wasn't before.
I have another question. It says, so the undercover told FG he let him in the club half of the time he went up there with James, and FG still didn't realize that what was going on. Still wasn't sure if it was Rat James. That's weird.
Well, it wasn't half of the times. They took maybe because I talk a little fast or something. They came one time and I let them in half price, is what happened. You know what I mean? When James came with the feds that one time, I let him in free and I let them in for half price. It wasn't half of the time. They never came. They only came one time. You know what I mean? So maybe somewhere and they listened and they kind of got it mixed up. They thought I said half of the time, when no, I let them in half price that one time that they did came.
Okay, I understand. Where are your co-defendants now? Like Drew.
Drew out there. I talked to Drew not too long ago. Drew around. Drew living
And
his life.
how does he feel about all this?
I mean, Drew feel the same way I feel. Drew had to do 10 years off this shit. You know what I mean? I mean, I can't speak for Drew, but I mean, I know him enough to say the shit. He felt the same way I felt. He left his family, he left his kids, he left, the life that he was living in order to go do jail time for a friend of his. So I'm sure Drew felt shit pissed, just like everybody else did.
Any last words for the people watching, and wonder and still have questions about all this?
No, I don't. Actually, I don't have no questions for him. You know what I mean? At this point, if you watched the interviews, if you looked at the paperwork, if you saw what you saw, you know what's really going on. If even in your heart you still want to be a Mob James supporter, or you want to, back him, I'm fine with that as well. You know what I mean? But the truth, the truth is told. The truth is what it is. I don't think people think I'm lying at all. They gonna believe what they want to believe. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I mean, no man in his, I guess somebody would, but I wouldn't, with the integrity that I have for myself, would never get up here and accuse somebody of something that wasn't true.
Mhm.
And that's
Last,
really what it is, AG.
would you pursue a podcast?
I mean, I don't know everything about the podcast work. I'm new to these
Right.
interviews, but at the same time, I would like to, not about Mob James, but I
Right.
would
Right.
like to, you know what I mean, try to help people with the wisdom of, what I'm talking about, and the education that I have about the streets and about, real life in itself. I wouldn't mind speaking to people about that. You know what I mean? About the consequences that comes with the decisions that you make. I would love to talk to people about that, but a podcast, that's something I would have to think about. You know what I mean?
Right. There it is. Thank you, FG, for your time.
All right,
Appreciate
AJ.
you.